Greetings, salutations, and welcome to the second Hexagauntlet. So, for those of you who are unfamiliar, you can run up to 6 copies of a card. You can only still run 1 copy of unique legendaries. 30 cards for 2 attribute or less decks. 45 cards if you run 3 attributes. You've got the full collection, runs over the weekend. So I've got 3 decks that I've kind of brewed up, each taking a different aspect on how to handle the Hexagauntlet. The first things to note is because you can run 6, cards that are naturally buffed, well, a single card that is naturally buffed that you need to keep in mind when you are playing is Piercing Twilight. All of our decks are built with that card in mind. So that said, let's take a look at the decks. First one, Dominion Hex. So, I've got a list that I'm going to pull up onto my other monitor here so I can actually see my numbers. And all of this will be down in the description below. As well as codes for the partial decks, so you can kind of look at the numbers and then fill out as needed. So, we're actually only running 3 Baandari Opportunists. You don't need to run too many of those, because if you play them early, then ultimately what will end up happening is Piercing Twilight will remove them. We're running 5 Moonshoker Smugglers, 5 Palace Prowlers, 3 copies of Shadow Shift, 5 Thieves Guild Fences, 4 Torval Crooks, 5 Unicorns. Now here's where it starts getting interesting. We're running 3 Aldmeri Spellwrights. When your opponent takes damage, you gain 1 magicka this turn. We are also running Brynjolf, as he is basically, for our purposes, he is a Spellwright plus, because he gets magicka whenever a creature pilfers or drains. We are running, how many copies? 6 Spoils of War, and then 5 Ultimate Heists. So the goal of this deck is to get a Spellwright or a Brynjolf down as soon as humanly or Khajiitally possible. Your ideal opening is a Moonshoker Smuggler, which has the sorry, cat cam is between it and us, but cats are more important than, well, bigger cats? Meh. Moonshoker Smuggler, last gasp, gain 2 magicka this turn. If you open with that, let's say you're going first. That means if they oppose, you are able to trade, and the next turn you have 4 magicka. You can play a Torval Crook. Then the next turn you'll have 4 magicka. You can either play a Crook, and then you just start trying to spam out as many of these 1 cost as possible to get a Spellwright. Once you achieve a Spellwright or a Brynjolf, doesn't matter which one, Brynjolf's better if given the opportunity. You are then just trying to cycle Spoils of War, draw as many Heists as you can, because to get Heist down to 0, it means you are pilfer or draining a total of 6 times. Do note Palace Prowler counts twice. Unicorn is in here to give Palace Prowler charge. You could get this down to 0 by breaking 1 rune. If you could cycle through and find the remainder of your heists, you can win. Because you'll break 1 rune. They have 4 runes. We'll call it, they'll have 4 runes left, but they'll also have their face. So we'll start it at 5. First heist, second heist, third heist, fourth heist, win. The key to this deck is getting your engine firing. If you need to play it slower, you can get a fence and then use various card draw to get discounted combo pieces to try to fire it off in 1 turn, which that is notable. You can't do this in 1 turn if you play Unicorn into Prowler, into Prowler, into Prowler, because reminder, each time Prowler goes face, you're getting 1 magicka. So let's say you have 4 magicka, 5 heists in hand. You play the Unicorn, 1 Magicka. You play the Prowler, 0. It goes face, 1. Prowler, 0. Face, 1. Well, you just drained and pilfered twice. So play 1 more Prowler, 0, 1. But now all of your heists cost 0. And then you just play them in rapid succession. Theoretically, you have other things like Moonsugar, because at that point you are 2 points away from winning, because you want to break that first rune. In other words, this deck is very, very powerful and can win very, very quickly. The reason we include some of these other drain slash, what's the word? Ramp, pseudo-ramp cards where you're getting the extra Magicka is because we assume you're not going to have the perfect combo and that you have to do a fair bit of drawing. So cycling through Opportunists, Smugglers, Prowlers, Spoils of War, just to eventually find what you need. Only rule this deck has is do not play a heist before you can play a heist to win, or have the heists in hand to win. Because if they manage to Piercing Twilight all of your heists out of your deck, your win rate will drop precipitously. But enough about this deck. Let's go on to the next one. So the next one takes a separate approach to the idea of the Hexagauntlet. The idea is, sure, Piercing Twilight exists and can banish cards in your opponent's discard pile. Well, if your opponent's playing it, your discard pile. It doesn't matter if you consume everything. So you've got Imbued Argonians as defense against early aggro, and they provide guard to a lot of your later consumed creatures. You're ending up running, let's get the numbers correct here, 5 Imbued Argonians, 4 Midnight Trespassers, 5 Brutes, 4 Reapers, 5 Scholars, only 2 Piercing Twilights, and 5 Shamblers. Weakness of this deck, Silence. Silence is terrifying for this deck. The deck is weighted very heavily toward having consumed creatures on the board, on board or in deck, so Ruin Shambler should be an easy way to trigger multiple Scholars, multiple Brutes, and or multiple Argonians. As ideally you're playing these guys out onto the board, but as soon as they die, you're then plopping a Consume down to prevent Piercing Twilight from cycling all of them out of your list. With Ill-Fated Scholar giving you, what's it called? Vengeful Spirit? Insidious Spirit. The Insidious Spirit doesn't matter if it dies and stays in the graveyard, because if they banish it, you don't have any of those in your deck. And so you're then able to just use trades and Ruin Shambler to try to aggro your opponent down. I have faith in this list if you're not running against something that's running a fair bit of silence. Also, you need to make sure you can control down any combo with your guards. So comparing this to our Dominion list, you gotta make sure you can get those Argonians in front of those Khajiits, and that you can quickly guard up in both lanes. Now the Dominion list will just start throwing Unicorn, Moonsugar, Smugglers into your guards hoping to kill them, but that's where the gameplay comes in. We mentioned it and I'm going to highlight it, you're running only 2 Piercing Twilights. Those cards are to be used defensively, i.e. if you've managed, hey, my opponent, I killed their Piercing Twilight the rest of them. Just get the rest of those out of there and not have to worry about it the rest of the game. Why not? Or, hey, it looks like my opponent's playing a combo deck and I need to remove these things. Cool. Play a Piercing Twilight. Get rid of all of those things. There is a vulnerability to Thorana Ice Spike combo present. I opted with the try to win before that happens mentality. If you really want, you could swap out either the Piercing Twilights or a couple of the Reapers or guards, depending on what you think you're up against. Swap out a couple of the cards and put in a Thalmor Embassy. Worth highlighting here, and I think we'll actually see it... I don't remember if I put it into my Hex Hatred deck, which is the next one we'll be looking at. Ongoing. Your High Elves cost 1 less. Doesn't matter, we don't run High Elves. Important. You can't be damaged by actions! Screw you, Thorana, and screw your Ice Spike combo. I do not run this in my other list because I just remembered I changed the class. I spent way too much time thought processing, going through decks, building decks. I built like 7. And then I'd get it done, I'd look at it and go, no, I don't like it. Delete and start over. But anyway, you could tech this in if you feel like you're seeing too much Ice Spike combo, or any combo that's using actions to damage your face. Then the last one. Hex Hatred. So the idea of this deck is screw this gauntlet. We're going to play our own thing. What is unique about this list is all of the numbers you see are the actual numbers you're running. We are not taking advantage of the you may run 6 cards. And we are not running Piercing Twilight. By running multiple cards like this, that is our armor against Piercing Twilight. Against an aggro list, we're running 10 Prophecies, so we should hit 1, but the Prophecies are really high impact ones. Golden Initiate, Tear, Javelin. There's a fair bit of early guard that you're running between Barrowstalker, City Guard. Other 2-drops, Aldmeri to get some rallies in. We'll see why those are important here shortly. Execute, just, hey look, they played something that would give them Magicka. No. Dro-m'Athra Reaper, again, just using a little bit of consume, so let's say they kill a Stampede Sentinel, which, worth highlighting, you cannot be damaged by actions or supports, because screw this gauntlet! But let's say they kill one and you don't want the Piercing Twilighting the rest, you use your Dro-m'Athra to consume it. That is the extent of our consume in the deck. Other combos this is running. Bedeviling Scamp. All cards cost a minimum of 3. Very, very good for playing Screw Your Combo. Oh, your combo reduces them to 0? Yeah, it reduces them to 3. Oh, you're playing a Market deck? Screw you, they all cost 3. Which means they don't trigger your Market. Also, to screw Market over, Withered Hand Cultist. All actions cost 2 more. East Empire Crafter is there to take advantage of our rallies, so getting things up to 5 health to give them guard. It also makes Stampede Sentinel and Seducer Darkfire come down with guard. Which Seducer Darkfire, choose a cost your opponent cannot play cards with the chosen cost. All cards cost a minimum of 3. If you pick 3, they cannot play any card in their deck that would cost 3 or less. Period. It's one of the shutout combos this deck runs. For dealing with decks that are maybe a little greedier or similar to what we're playing, we run 2 Hallowed Death Priests, which take advantage of East Empire Crafter as well to get guard. Inspiring Kinsman for buffs. Lord Guard Emperor, because, well, additional guard is good. Also, he can get things up to 5 health, which they'll already have guard, but East Empire Crafter will give them +1/+1, so that's kind of nice. Dushnix to answer any pesky supports your opponent has. Also, it comes down as a guard, which is really nice if you're dealing with a pesky Khajiit deck that can win from hand. The reason there is so much guard in this deck, or potential for guard, is because of decks like that can win from hand. I cannot stress that enough. You need to be prepared for being beaten from hand. But I digress. Those are the 3 lists. Let me know what you'll be running, or if you have any comments about these decks, that can all go down in the description below. And we're going to call it. I would love if there were a mode in the game where we could do our own lane effects and just trial and play these out. But unfortunately, I can't take a 45-card tricolor deck, even to ladder, just to kind of experiment and see how it works. Of the 3, I'll probably do a run with the Khajiit deck. I will probably do a run with the Hatred deck. We'll see if I end up doing Consume. It's one of those that it's very, very strong, but I think the deck is very situationally strong. So like the Hatred deck, I think it beats it. Just because it's going to have bigger options and the guards won't trouble it as much. The Khajiit deck, I think, has the potential to beat both of them, but also both of them can beat the Khajiit deck. It's not a blowout. So, I'll mix it up when we play. We will be streaming it this Sunday on our Facebook gaming channel. That's like way down in the description below all the other deck info. Bam! Best of vibes to you. Phil, Watt, Telegrammaticus, Austin, Nikki, Candace, thank you all very much for your support. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Best of vibes. Take care.